When are you going to stop blaming everyone else for where you are in life and start looking at yourself to see where you need to do better? So around 5 or 6 years ago, my cousins are over at my house and we're all in the living room and we're all kind of messing around. You know, we're like dancing. We just had breakfast. We're full of energy. We're dancing around, pushing each other, having fun. And in the center of the room near the couch, there's this little Korean type table on top of the carpet. It's this very low table. And my cousin, she jumps up onto it and we're all being super rowdy and we're full of energy. She's like dancing on it and it's swaying back and forth, and for some reason something came over me that in that moment, I don't know if it was the energy or why I even did it. I wanted to be like cool or something or show that I was like alpha, and so I jumped up onto it and I literally shoved her off. I full jumped up onto the table and I pushed her off, and she had just hit the ground on her hands and knees, like hit the ground hard. And for some reason I was standing there and going like, let's go. I just knocked her off, like I'm the king of the castle. And then my aunt looks at me, I look down, my cousin is crying, and my aunt starts to yell at me like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, why is she yelling at me? She's never yelled at me before. And so I start crying. I run away into the guest room and I'm sitting there crying and all angry and thinking, why did she yell at me? Why did she yell at me? She's not allowed to do that. She's not my mom. And I was thinking like, oh, she's telling me to apologize. She should apologize to me. I felt that discomfort because it was such a weird feeling. I had never ever had my aunt yell at me. It's never happened to me before, and it was something new and weird, and I didn't like it. I thought she had done the wrong thing. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but a lot of the times in my childhood, I would think like, oh, what if I were to disappear? Then they would be so regretful for what they did. And so I thought to myself, well, yeah, maybe I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here and wait till someone comes in and apologizes and says, Max, can you please come out? We want you to be out here and have fun with us. And so I thought that was gonna happen, right? I'm sitting there, 10 minutes pass, 20, 30, 40, an hour. I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking, okay, they're gonna come in here, right? My aunt's gonna come in here, she's gonna apologize. It's their fault. I'm still really angry and I'm thinking, I'm just gonna keep sitting in here until someone comes and finds me and says, Max, come on, we want you to be with the family. Because in my head, I was thinking they're the ones being regretful and thinking, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Max, we feel so bad for Max. And so I'm sitting there another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's been an hour and 30, and then 2 hours pass. And then I start to think, okay, no one's coming to apologize to me. I hear them all having fun in the kitchen. Everyone's laughing and enjoying themselves. And I'm just sitting in here like an idiot. I'm sitting in here just moping and feeling bad for myself, wallowing in self-pity and thinking that they should apologize to me when I was the one that did the wrong thing. And so I walk out of the guest room, walk back to the kitchen like a dog with a tail in between its legs. And everyone just kind of doesn't even really notice that I was gone or came back or anything. They're all just having a good time and we sort of forget about what happened. And in that moment though, I realized that I was the problem. I pushed my cousin off the table. I was the reason why I got yelled at, and it wasn't my aunt's fault. It wasn't my cousin's fault for crying. It was my fault for getting into this situation and making this scene. You are the problem. You are looking out into the world for the reason you are where you are in life. So many people want an apology from life, like how I wanted an apology in my story from my aunt. You don't get an apology from life. You are the reason you are where you are. And I'm not going to discredit your circumstances, what you've gone through in life. And people are going to be like, oh, but these terrible things have happened to me. I know. I understand. I don't actually know what you've been through, but I know that you've gone through shit. And I don't discredit that. I don't say that that means nothing. I say that you have to make the best out of your situation. It's your responsibility. It's your duty. You have to realize that you have the responsibility and the duty to yourself to make your life as good as it possibly can be. And you shouldn't blame the circumstances that you were born into. You shouldn't blame the things that have happened to you for why you are where you are, because that gives you no power to make change in your life and to become better. You've seen people make it out of terrible circumstances. You've seen people make it from the bottom. There's so many success stories where people have nothing and they made it because they decided that they weren't going to let the circumstances and the external factors of their life define them. They weren't going to let the things that they couldn't control their life. They were going to take a grip over their own life and make themselves into the person that they wanted to be and achieve what they wanted out of life. And why can't you be the next underdog story? Why can't you make it out of the depths of wherever you are? Instant gratification, you're addicted to porn, you're doing terrible things every single day for your health. You are in a terrible situation with your family and things are going terribly. Maybe someone's even abusive or something terrible is happening to you. You need to give yourself the power to make change in your life by saying, I won't let these fucking circumstances define me. I won't let these factors that I can't control define me. I'm gonna go change my life and be the next underdog story. Be the next person that makes it out. Because you are the problem. And even though you are the problem, it's not always your fault, but it is always your responsibility to do what? To work on the problem, because that's what problems need. They need to be worked on and they need to be solved. You are always what needs solving. You are always what needs focus and work, not everything else, Nothing else needs your attention, only you. That is why you are the problem, and that is why you always must look at yourself for where you want to go, for the progress that you want to make, not at everything else for why you are where you are. Look at yourself for why you are where you are, and look at yourself for where you want to go, not the external factors that you think control your life. Because when you blame everything else for why you are in your situation, you blame your teacher, you blame your boss, you blame your parents, you blame your circumstances, you blame money, you blame everything else but yourself, which makes it impossible for you to solve and work on the thing that really needs to be worked on, which is you. It makes you powerless. It makes you say, this is how it is, and that's just how it is. It is what it is. What can I do? Well, my circumstances in life are terrible. I might as well just give up, give in. It's whatever, I can't do anything about it. That's bullshit. You can obviously do something about it, but you're letting yourself believe that the things that really don't have control over you do have control over you. Because obviously external factors, things you can't control, are going to affect your life. You can't control whether it's sunny or rainy, but yeah, you might have to go wear a raincoat and bring an umbrella if it's raining outside. Does that mean you should mope and cry and blame the weather for not being sunny? No, you just say, well, that's what it is. Let's focus on what I can do. I can put on a raincoat, I can bring my umbrella, and I can make things better for myself. I don't have to get soaked outside. See, if you focus on the thing that you cannot control, it will not actually give you power to change anything. It will always just be, why is it raining today? I wish it was sunny. I guess I can't go outside. And you didn't even think about the fact that you could have just brought an umbrella and you could have gone to wherever you wanted to go. But you believed that that thing that was outside of your control controlled you. But a lot of the time, you actually are the problem. You are the reason that you've gotten into the situation that you are in, and your behavior that you've done before has led you down the path to where you are. Just like in my story, I was the one who was at fault. I was the one that got myself into that situation and led me down to that low point where I was really angry, where I was sitting there and I wasn't having fun, even though my cousins were over and I love my family, I love being with my family. I put myself there. It was my fault. But even after you've done something wrong, you go and say, no, the reasons for this were X, Y, and Z because I couldn't control this, and that's why I'm here. And you start to convince yourself that it's actually not your fault and that everything else is the problem. Everything else is the thing that needs to be worked on. And if they only did this better, if they didn't do this to me, then I would be fine. And you never look internally at what you can do. And even if things have probably done you dirty in life and you didn't ask for these external factors that have made your life worse or changed your life, or you didn't ask for people to do certain things to you or for bad things to happen to you, I know nobody really wants these things, these external factors to change our lives and for our parents to be this certain way and for people to act in a certain way to us and bullying and all these bad things, right? I know you can't control that and I know you didn't want that, but it's how things are. And blaming all of those things is not going to help you. I'm not going to say that, you should just not care at all. And I know those things hurt, but you have to realize that you will never ever benefit yourself by blaming other things in life, by blaming outside factors that you couldn't have controlled. You cannot and will not benefit yourself from doing that. Do not blame anything. And sometimes you don't have to blame yourself. Sometimes it is your fault and sometimes it isn't, but it's always your responsibility. Because if you take responsibility for everything and you tell yourself that it is your duty to make the best out of every situation, that is where you will be in the most control. Something I need to explain is locus of control and circle of influence. Because if you want to be more in control, you have to understand these things. In order to gain the most control over your life, you need to have an internal locus of control. And to explain what an internal locus of control is, you have to understand both external and internal locuses of control, and you also have to understand the circle of influence. So you have 3 circles. The first circle is the circle of control. It's all the things that you do have complete control over, which is your mind, the thoughts that you think, the beliefs that you have, your identity. Those are the things that you can control, right? And then you get into the next circle, which is your circle of influence. It's the things that you don't have a complete control over the outcome of, but you have an influence. And then you have the circle of concern, which is your concern for all of the things that you believe to be completely outside of your control. It's those things that you're like, why is it raining today? You give thought and attention to things that you cannot control in any way. You think to yourself, why is the wind blowing today? I hate the wind so much. Why is it windy? And you're giving a lot of energy to something and concern to something that you have no control over. When you have an internal locus of control, you believe that you have an influence over pretty much everything that happens in your life. Even though you might not have full control over some things, you focus on all those things that you can influence, and you believe that you can influence a lot. Which means when you have an internal locus of control, the circle of influence that you have is going to get bigger and bigger, and the circle of concern is going to start to go away, because you are going to stop thinking about all the things that you can't control, and you're going to start believing that you have influence over most things in your life. After you start to focus on what you can influence, you start to forget about the things things you cannot control. But when you have an external locus of control, the circle of influence that you have gets smaller and smaller because you believe that everything has influence and control over you and that you don't have influence over it. That all these things that just happen to you at random and all the bad things and circumstances of life, you believe that you are where you are because of external things, not you, which gives you so much less power and so much less influence, and it makes you become concerned over everything that you cannot control. You're concerned over the weather, you're concerned over you getting injured and things that you couldn't have prevented and that you cannot control. So when you have this external locus of control, you come to the conclusion that things that you have influence over have complete control over you, that you don't have an influence over many things in your life, that everything sort of just acts upon you and you don't act upon the world. And what this does is it actually makes you start to believe that. And then once you believe it, it starts to become true. So you actually start to have less control because you believe you have less control than you actually do. But when you start to believe the other way around, have an internal locus of control, that you have more influence over things, not than you actually do, but than most people actually believe, you do start to have more control over those things. You do start to have more of an influence over your life and where it goes. And you stop giving power and concern and thought to all those things that you can't control at all. You right now are convincing yourself that you don't have control over your life, that you aren't the problem, and you blame everything else and you say all these other things are the problem. These are the reasons why I am where I am in life. You are where you are in life because of your behavior that's gotten you there. That's how you need to start thinking, because then you'll have way more control to go and do and achieve the goals that you want to achieve and make the life for yourself that you want. Genuinely, you just have to accept that you are the problem. You are what needs solving. You are what needs work. You always have to look at yourself to see what you can do. Because if you don't do that, and this relates back to a video I've posted previously about how you need to be the one to ask yourself, what can I do? Not say this thing controls me and this is the problem and they need to do better. It's about you. It's not about blaming anybody else, because it's not anyone else's fault. It might not be your fault. It might just happen to be the way your life has panned out and things that have happened to you that you can't control. But a lot of the time it is your fault, and it is always your responsibility, whether it's your fault or not. Every situation, it's always your responsibility to make it the best it possibly can be. So you are the problem. You need to be solved. You are the thing that constantly needs work. Always look internally for what you must do. Do never, ever, ever look externally or give power to things that you cannot control. Always believe that you have the influence, that you have the ability to change your life. You have the ability to go do great things. You have the ability to get out of a shitty situation, because you do. And once you start believing it, it becomes true. This is the power of belief. This is the power of your mindset. You must believe it so that it can become true and that you can take control over your life. If you keep thinking, woe is me, oh, my life is so terrible, I can't do it, I have no control over it, I always just go back to video games, oh, woe is me, I really want to quit porn, woe is me, I really want to do all this. And it's like, you must look at yourself and say, this is on me. This is my fault. This is not the world's fault. It's me. I need to do better. I want to do better. I want to do better. I desire better for myself. And once you start thinking like that, your life gets infinitely times better, because you have control and the world doesn't. You take control over your life. And yeah, there are some things that you will never fully be able to control, but you always have such an influence over your life that you can go in any direction that you want. You must constantly look within for what you need to do to get to where you want to be and why you are where you are. Don't blame external factors. It's not their fault. Subscribe, like the video. Also, quick mention, I have a free community. It might already be out by the time this video is posted, but I'm going to be releasing a full free course in there. So many hours of work put into it, and I really do think it's a great course. It's about going from 0 to 1 on self-improvement and creating a new life for yourself. If you're interested in that, please join the community. There's also just a lot of great people in there, a lot of friends you can make. I'm posting in there, I'm replying to comments, you can ask me questions. There's live calls every other week, so it's really just an amazing place to be, and I hope to see you there. And as always, never stop improving. You'll be grateful for it later.